Back on Closer Look with Michael Friscolanti. I'm Scott Sexsmith. What you didn't see before the camera started rolling, this guy over here is singing a little Tragically Hip.
No one wants to hear me sing.
You're right. No one does want to hear you sing, but maybe tell everyone
well, the song's been in my head all day because
Yeah.
we're going to talk about Bill Barilko, the great former Toronto Maple Leaf defenseman, whose story is well known to most people because of the Tragically Hip song 50 Mission Cap. There was a really fascinating piece of Bill Barilko memorabilia that was sold this week.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to the man behind that sale, and it's just a great trip down memory lane. Nothing. What better to talk about than the Leafs and the Tragically Hip?
Love it.
Yep.
It's Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. You know what today is? 6 months today is Christmas Day.
Oh, is it?
It is.
I've already gotten your gift.
Another lump of coal?
Another lie.
Okay, yesterday's show, we talked about the Zamboni that you'd find on the beach, or the sand bony.
Yeah, speaking of lumps of coal.
You never know what you'll find. It was great of Melissa DeYoung to join us. Some great comments from across the network last night. From Sudbury, pathetic that we need a robot to do people's responsibilities. It's a fair point, but the people have always been there not doing it, so now we've had to resort to this.
I don't know if people could do what that robot does, but anyways, continue.
Yeah.
We'll get
All
into
right.
that.
And from Guelph, this is from EZG, as a backpacker and canoer that goes into the wilderness, we have a motto: if you pack it in, pack it out. I like that.
It's good.
For a person going to beaches, I can't understand why they can't do the same. Trash cans are everywhere, no excuses, and you are bang on, EZG. They are there. Fill them up.
It's a fair point, but then I've been watching this video. I'm going to be honest, I don't typically watch our shows, right? I'm involved in getting them ready. The interview's ready, we talk, and then Derek and you kind of put the finishing touches on. Derek does his magic behind the scenes.
Derek, let's be honest.
It's Derek does the magic behind the scenes. I don't typically watch it. It's not kind of my role.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't see the B-roll of like the footage of the actual Zamboni thing.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So Derek's posted it on all our social media channels. I think it's on TikTok. Yeah. And I was just watching that as well while I was humming the Bill Barilko song.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what it could do. Like the stuff. So obviously people can't do what this machine does and pick up the stuff.
No.
But it's an amazing thing. And what I loved from Melissa too yesterday was about how this is as much a conversation starter as it is an environmental tool, right? It's about getting people talking about plastics in the Great Lakes because it's such a kind of stop in your tracks kind of thing where you'll say, what the heck is that? And you're going to have to talk about it. So it's as much a PR machine as a cleaning machine.
And you know, I keep going back to what we said yesterday about this hockey theme this week, and we certainly did not set out to have it go this way.
Yes.
But, you know, we started Monday with elbows up, then the Zamboni that's cleaning the beaches. Now today,
Yes.
Bill Barilko, and Friday is Stanley Cup champion.
Yes. I don't know. We've taken the cat out of the bag,
I
knock
know.
on wood.
I didn't say who it was.
We think we have a Stanley Cup champion coming on Friday. I'm very confident we have a Stanley Cup champion on Friday, which would be a great way to finish off our first week of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be our second Stanley Cup champion to come on the podcast.
Michael Amadio.
That's right.
A couple of years ago when he played for the Vegas Golden Knights.
That's right, yeah. So it'd be a great finish, yeah. So I thought of that too when I was talking to you this morning about Bill Barilko.
Yeah.
I thought there's a lot of hockey going on in the show. But hey, you know.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's Canada, isn't it?
It's been some time since the Toronto Maple Leafs have been called Stanley Cup champions, 1967.
Yep.
Derek and I were reminiscing earlier today, but it was Bill Barilko in 1951, the topic of today's show. We're joined now by Ben Pernfuss, the consignment director of the sports category at Miller Miller Auctions in New Hamburg, Ontario. Thanks for joining us today, Ben.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's awesome. Ben, I saw the headline in a few news sites, you know, Bill Barilko's stick sold for $60,000, and your mind automatically turns to that great Tragically Hip song and the famous lyrics about this former Leafs defenseman. And we're going to get into all that and talk about the backstory, but let's kind of start from the beginning. Tell us about this stick. Like, what do we know for sure about the stick, where it came from, how it got in your hands?
Sure, yeah. So the story on the stick is that, you know, following the 1951 season, Bill Barilko, huge fisherman. So him and a number of the Toronto Maple Leafs went up to a cottage in Northern Ontario. They used this cottage as a sort of halfway point before they went deeper north to go fishing. And as a gift to the cottage owner, they gave this stick. The players that were on the trip signed the stick, including Barilko. This was a gift to the cottage owner, and that cottage owner held it for many years until it changed hands a couple of times before reaching us at Miller and Miller.
Ben, I'm curious, what's the process of verifying the authenticity of a stick like this, especially one that's game used?
Yeah, for sure. So we had to make sure first off that the stick was from the correct era. So it's from the early 50s. And we were able to do that by looking at the markings on the stick and the maker of the stick. And then the next thing was just verifying that all of the signatures were correct. So obviously Barilko didn't have a chance to sign very much in his time in professional hockey, just because it was cut, unfortunately, so short. So we ended up getting the signatures looked at. We dated the stick to the 1951 season based on who'd signed the stick and the markings on the stick. And then we also had to make sure that the stick was a Barilko stick. And the way that we were able to do that is looking at the number 5 stamp on the stick, which was Barilko's number during the 1951 season. So we had a number of experts looking at the stick just to make sure that the story lined up with what was in front of us.
Is that like months-long process, or does that take a few weeks?
I would say months. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, it's we got the stick, 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. So since we got it, we've been doing research and trying to verify everything.
I love this for like the old school Maple Leafs fans, the diehards. Names like Turk Broda, Ted Kennedy. These are the guys that signed this stick. Joe Kluke, who went on to play for the Sioux Greyhounds, I think after or before. Cal Gardner, Howie Meeker, Sid Smith, Al Rollins, Ted Sloan. That's a lot of really cool signatures from the 50s, from that era. If you love the Leafs and you know that history, that's pretty amazing. What's it like as someone like you, a collector and an expert in this kind of stuff, just to see those kind of names on one stick?
Yeah, it's quite a thrill. And being 24, I haven't seen the Toronto Maple Leafs win a Stanley Cup, unfortunately.
You're not alone, Ben. Yeah. You're not alone.
Yeah,
I'm hoping this stick was good luck, but it kind of brings you back. Like, you can just imagine what in 1951 Toronto was feeling when Bill Barilko scored that goal, and I think that's what helped bring the big money on this stick, was just the feeling of nostalgia from the good times of the Toronto Maple Leafs that we unfortunately haven't seen in a while.
Well, Ben, let's talk about the money aspect for a second, because initially the estimate on this stick was somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, and then it sold for $60,000. So what do you think drove that price, that final selling price?
I think that's a good question, and we weren't like, an item of this rarity is hard to put an estimate on, but I think as you mentioned, the Tragically Hip wrote this song about Barilko. The 1951 season is kind of like it's like a Canadian history moment when Barilko scored that goal. And I think it brought in collectors on the pop culture side from the Tragically Hip. It brought in sports collectors who know Bill Barilko as a Toronto legend and a Canadian sports legend. And I think all of those audiences coming together to bid on this stick is what brought it to that huge number.
It's a great point, right? Because for a lot of people, Bill Barilko is first and foremost a Tragically Hip lyric and not a hockey player, right?
That's
so for
right.
a certain generation, it reminds me, we were talking about this earlier, of like the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, that amazing song. And even the relatives of the people who died on that ship would say that without that song, this would have been a long forgotten story. Not that Bill Barilko would have been long forgotten, but it certainly helped him live on. And like you said, that must have played a role in driving up the interest in this stick.
I think so. I know Barilko's name as a younger guy from the song more than I do from the Leafs. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. I got that sense, at least.
Ben, is there anything, and I know you can't get into specifics, but is there anything about the buyer that you can share with us?
That one's a bit tough for me to talk about, but I can say that it's in great hands, and it's going to stay a part of Canadian history. We'll say that.
Wow, you may have a future in politics.
Do you think we'll ever hear more? Like, do you think this buyer might come out and say who they are and what they plan to do with the stick?
They might. Yeah, they might. I don't know their intentions at this time, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Could you give them a call right now while we're on the show? And
yeah, I'll get right on that.
See what they think. Can you walk us through the process a bit? I'm obviously a sports fan, and I have some things that mean something to me that I've collected over the years. But I wonder, how does this process work? Is it a bunch of people sitting in a room? Is it an online auction? How do you get in on this?
Sure. So I go to, like myself, I'm the sports director here. So I go to the collections usually, just to assess what items would work for our auction. And we write up a contract at these collectors' homes. We take items back to our building. We process them, we get them photographed, and they're offered for sale fully online. So there's no live portion to our sports sales, but the item would go up online 3 weeks in advance of it selling. People bid for a 3-week period. And like the Barilko stick, usually a lot of the action is in the last few hours before the item sells. But it's a fully online process. And it's kind of like once you give us the item, it's hands off and you receive a check.
And anyone can bid, right? Anyone can jump in?
Yeah, anyone, as long as they're signed up on our website, you can jump in. You're like bidders from all over the world.
Ben, craziest item you've ever sold?
This one's up there. I mean, items that give you like chills and like pieces of history. This one's, I would say, is number one for me. I think holding and finding Mickey Mantle's 1952 Topps card, which is like the post-war Holy Grail card, has been quite a thrill for me. Just bringing that out of someone's closet to market and for selling for 50,000 plus is been a bit of a thrill over the last couple of years. So I'd say Mickey Mantle and Bill Barilko have a special place in my heart right now.
It was 1967 that the Leafs last won the Stanley Cup. So anything Leafs and Cup related, is there extreme value there?
Yeah, I think the Cup years bring out a certain elevated value. I think Toronto sports market, as we know, is pretty crazy. There's passionate fans galore. Montreal is similar. I won't give them as much credit, but Montreal is also a market that, the Richard brothers, Bellevaux, that stuff brings pretty good money. And yeah, I think the nostalgic feeling of when the Leafs were sort of a dynasty back in the 50s and the early 50s and the 1967 year. Those are the big money years for Toronto.
Besides hearing from us and asking you to come on the podcast, what's the reaction been like from the public who've read about it? It must be overwhelming the last few days.
It has a bit, yeah. Like, I think there's a lot of interest. There's a special connection that people have to this story, as we've mentioned, through the Tragically Hip and through the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think people just like to hear about this. And there's something about like a find like this. I think it gets people excited.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like a treasure hunt a little bit.
For sure. Our producer, Derek Turner, is both a huge hockey fan and a huge music fan, a musician himself. I think you had a question, Derek. Was there something you wanted us to ask?
Yeah, what did it feel like in your hands? Like what the stick itself?
Yeah, did you get to hold the stick? What did it feel like?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was when I, first held the stick and I wasn't 100% sure what it was. I was like a little bit skeptical. And then when we got some positive feedback on the stick and I held it in my hands, it's one of those items that does give you goosebumps, to be honest. It feels like you're holding a piece of history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it probably felt like a paperweight too, compared to the sticks today.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And like you think about how they would shoot with a straight blade. Like I just can't fathom that.
That's what I was going to ask. Straight blade, right? There's no curve back then?
No, there was no curve at all. So they just kind of like more of a flick than the puck doesn't roll off the stick the same way.
Yeah.
Ben, you mentioned you're 24. You've been doing this since you were 16. How did you get into this biz?
Yeah, good question. It sort of started by helping out a friend's grandmother who set up at antique shows, and the Miller brothers were at these shows, and they would see me there, and they'd see my friend who was also young at the show, and kind of wonder what are these kids doing here? And they got talking to us one day. They needed help at the auction that they were running, and they said, "Would you like a job?" And as a 16-year-old, I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
So the rest is history. And graduated school, but I work here full time now.
That's amazing. This is a fascinating conversation. I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously with all that's happened with COVID, with the economic uncertainty, with the tariffs, what's the sports memorabilia business like right now? Are things in high demand? Is it kind of slow right now?
So during COVID, there was a crazy spike in the sports market, cards specifically. Just people had time to go through their collections. They sort of rekindled the passion of sports collecting, I think, during COVID. So we saw a huge spike in interest during those years. And it's kind of, I mean, it's not going up at that exponential rate anymore, but it's certainly flatlined at a high elevation, we'll say. Yeah. We haven't seen any faltering in the sports market at all. With the economic uncertainty, I think, sports is just something that people love and will always collect.
Isn't there a Netflix show that follows a company, sports memorabilia? Have you seen it? Yeah.
What's it called?
I can't remember what it's called, but
it's called King of Collectibles.
That's it.
Go. It should star you, Ben. You're doing a great job.
That guy's hopping on a private jet every second day to go and evaluate some piece of memorabilia.
I'm waiting for my private jet from the Miller brothers, but I haven't got it yet. So.
Ben, we're all waiting, brother.
Absolutely. You know what's amazing, because we are all sports fans in this room. We talk sports a lot, and to think that we're having a conversation about a great player who 74 years ago scored this amazing overtime winner, and that his name lives on both because of that goal and because of the Tragically Hip song, is just pretty wild. Is there anything else about this adventure with this stick that you want to tell us that we didn't ask you about?
No, I don't think so. I think we kind of covered all the bases. It's been a lot of fun to talk about it with both of you.
All right, good stuff. There's Ben Pernfuss, the consignment director in the sports category at Miller Miller Auctions in beautiful New Hamburg, Ontario. Ben, thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I told you that was going to be a great conversation. I told you I'm so excited that Ben's coming on. It's going to be an awesome conversation, and it was better than I thought.
I can't believe I ever doubt you.
Yeah.
I really can't.
And I'll tell you, if Derek interrupts our show ever again, there's going to be hell to pay.
Well, tell you one thing, somebody's leash just got a little shorter.
Like he's waving in the corner.
I know. A little distracting.
Yeah,
doing a
holy
little
cow.
show
We're trying
here.
to do a professional production over here, and Derek's yelling in the corner.
Let's be honest, there's nothing professional about it.
Oh, that was great. That was funny. No, you know what? I like that Derek piped in.
It's great. It's
sometimes
fantastic.
someone else has the best question of the night, and it was a great one.
How many times have we said it? He can have either one of these seats.
Exactly.
Any night he wants.
But it's true, right? Those sticks, that was what struck me looking at the photo of it. It's so different, the straight, like no curve, but it must have weighed a ton.
Yeah. What do they call? Is it graphite now that they use, or something different than graphite? I just know there's no weight to them, and they cost like $500 a piece.
Yeah, and they crack. They just break. I see these kids in the house league just buy $500 sticks. They're in house league.
First of all, if you're playing house league,
you should have a wooden stick. You should have Bill Barilko's stick.
Exactly. Okay, so true story. When I was much younger, for Christmas, I got a game-used Wayne Gretzky hockey stick.
Oh, wow.
Now, the brand was Titan. Remember Titan?
Yes, yeah.
It was a TPM 2020 Titan Ultra Glass. That brand of stick, so I'm told, was only made for Gretzky and for Steve Yzerman.
Oh, really?
Now, what was really cool when I got it, here's how authentic it was. The top of the stick, the knob of the stick, you could still smell the sweat from his glove.
Wow.
In the tape.
Wow.
Which was pretty cool. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, so in those days, would they use that stick for like 5 games?
I think when the cameras would flash the bench, like each player probably had 2, maybe 3.
But it wasn't like now where they're a different stick every shift.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So he scored with that stick his 48th goal of the season, January 24th, 1987.
Oh, was that the 50 and 50 game?
It was not.
Oh.
So Derek and I get on the internet this morning, prepping for the show. And January 20, we were doing some recon. January 24th, 1987, they played at Northlands Coliseum against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And there it is right there. Gretzky, 48th goal. It was a shorty, by the way, shorthanded at 11:11 of the second period. Oilers won the game 4-2. Gretzky had 4 points.
And was there some kind of authentication tag you got with that stick that said it was from that game, or how did you know?
Nothing, but I sold it. And I'll be honest, got $1,000 for it. Not 60. Like the Barilko stick.
Wow.
$1,000. Anyway, 48th goal of the season. January 24th, he went on to score 70 goals that season. 182 points in 63 games.
That's insane. That's why. That is unbelievable.
That is insane.
That is great. No, that's great.
Crazy.
You know what I do, and you've mentioned at the top of the show, I feel like we've talked a lot about hockey, and I'm sure that won't be the trend every week.
No.
But you know what? Though these are great stories, man. As I said, you're gonna Bill Barilko. I mean, that name rolling off your tongue means so much to so many different people. And I love how Ben said it too.
Yeah.
The first year to Bill Barilko was from the song, not from hockey.
That's right. Well, we can almost guarantee that tomorrow night, when Thomas Carrick, the commissioner of the OPP, is here, we won't be talking hockey. We might, but the chances
we can bring it up. But yeah, I think we're going to talk a little more about fentanyl than hockey.
Yeah. Okay. Closer look at villagemedia.ca. Find us on X, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you get your favorite podcast, audio version. We're all over the place. Closer look at villagemedia.ca. We will be back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, with OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrick. For all of us at Village Media, thanks for watching.